Hey everyone, it's Joe Beethoven, and yes, despite the fact that I have many other videos in the works that I should be focusing on, I took a break from all of that to wake up early, download the Final Fantasy XVI demo, play through all of it non-stop, immediately start writing a script about it, record audio, edit footage, and get my masterful thoughts to you all in one day. Was it a lot, you ask? Yes. Was it worth it, you ask? Yes, it freaking was, because spoiler alert, the FF16 demo absolutely blew my mind. There is so much I want to share with you about my experience, but I'm going to try to keep this brief since the game will be out soon enough and I'll give you my full thoughts then. It's not going to be that brief though, because I have a lot to say. Before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about my thoughts on FF16 in the lead up to this demo. To be completely honest, the first couple of trailers for FF16 did not impress me. Sure, it looked beautiful and epic, but something just felt off to me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it didn't feel like Final Fantasy to me, at least not the Final Fantasy that I have spent so much of my life playing. And then there was the M rating announcement. A mature rated mainline Final Fantasy title? What blasphemy is this? How could a Final Fantasy game feel right if people were dropping F-bombs and cutting off each other's heads with blood splattering everywhere? I was nervous about FF16 from the get-go, but as more information was revealed and more trailers were released, my fears were slowly assuaged. I saw the Final Fantasy DNA start to shine through, and I found myself getting swept away in the world of Valisthea like Ivalice before it. And then this demo came along, and every worry I had completely faded away, replaced with an immeasurable level of excitement for the game's soon coming release. Okay, yes, some of my fears about the more adult content remain, and I'll get to that, but overall, I am absolutely astounded by what Square Enix has managed to accomplish, and I want to share that astonishment with you. So let's get into it. Let's start off with the storytelling of Final Fantasy XVI, which will include the graphics, voice acting, character work, writing, and overall narrative flow. Now, this section will contain spoilers for the demo, but much of the information found here is already available online. Plus, if you have a PS5, you can go play the demo yourself right now and then come back. I'll wait. Okay, you good? Awesome, let's go. Final Fantasy has been pushing the boundaries of video game storytelling for decades, and fortunately, FF16 is continuing this trend. If I had to sum up FF16 through comparisons, I would say it's Final Fantasy meets Lord of the Rings meets Game of Thrones, which I never watched, but I get the gist, meets Disney's Encanto. Seriously, I'm not joking. I'll get to the Encanto thing in a bit. So, the game begins with some stellar narration from protagonist Clive Rossfield, setting the philosophical stage of FF16 quite nicely. Then we are immediately dropped into an epic throwdown between Ifrit and Phoenix as they fall through the earth. It's as if someone said, hey, remember that scene in the Two Towers where Gandalf was fighting the Balrog while falling through a mountain? Well, let's do that, except with 2 giant fire monsters instead of 1. And yes, it's as incredible as it sounds. What an absolutely stunning opening. From here, we are introduced to Clive in person, though not at the start of the story. Clive is serving as a branded soldier on the Imperial front, tasked with finding Shiva's dominant, a person blessed with the power of the Ice Icon. We see Clive and his team making their way across the landscape as a ridiculously epic battle ensues, including armored chocobos and magical catapults. I love it! Right away, the graphics are absolutely breathtaking, with character models and environments looking as if they could leap off the screen. This holds true during the entire demo, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. During all of this, we cut to a pretty intense political powwow. This is where we get to see the character work and writing really start to shine. Every voice actor is giving their absolute all. The dialogue is flawless as these characters wade through these turbulent political waters, and Benedicta is already climbing up my list of favorite Final Fantasy antagonists. However, this scene also contains a pretty uncomfortable moment that is one of the reasons my fears about FF16's more mature themes still remain. We see Benedicta throwing herself at Hugo, the dominant of Titan. This scene just felt off to me. Like the Game of Thrones vibes are a little too dominant in FF16. This is very brief and goes no further, and Benedicta is clearly doing this just to manipulate Hugo. However, the F-bombs being dropped are still quite jarring. For the record, games can use intense language as an effective means of storytelling, but it just feels off to me. Other FF games have used language sparingly and quite well, but FF16 feels like it's going too far to me, but maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe you feel completely different, and that's okay. After more epic visuals involving Clive and friends trying to survive an epic battle between Shiva and Titan, we flash back to the true beginning of the story. 13 years ago, Clive was but a 15-year-old boy training to become the first shield of his brother Joshua, the heir to the Duchy of Rosaria. We see Clive going through a very well-done tutorial fight with Captain Murdoch as Joshua and their mutual friend Jill cheer Clive on. Of course, Clive wins the fight, as well as the respect of Murdoch and all of the other soldiers. It's a wonderful introduction to the life that Clive used to have, and it breaks your heart to know it will soon come to an end in the most tragic fashion possible. This is where the story really kicks off, and it is truly a sight to behold. Clive, Joshua, and Jill immediately emerge as fully fleshed out characters thanks to the stellar work of the voice cast and the flawless script. FF16 is the first time a Final Fantasy game was written and cast with English in mind, and it totally shows. If you are anything like me, you will immediately fall in love with these characters. Next, we are quickly introduced to the Duke, Clive and Joshua's father, who is so ridiculously loving and admirable that you know he's going to get Ned Stark in no time. Told you I knew the gist. And then we meet the Duchess, Annabella, Clive and Joshua's mother, and genuinely one of the worst people I have ever seen. She despises Clive for not being chosen by the Phoenix icon when he was born, even though that was in no way his fault. She's like if the grandma from Encanto absolutely hated Mirabelle for not receiving a gift from Casa Madrigal and was an overall psychotic witch. If it wasn't clear, I really don't like her. This is a testament to how strong the writing is. It takes you 2 seconds to know that Annabella is the worst and that the Duke is the nicest guy in the world. He calls all of his soldiers his friends, which makes him immediately endearing. After all of this, Clive gets to look around the castle a bit with Jill and their faithful puppy Torgal, who is of course ridiculously adorable. FF16's level of exploration is much more akin to classic FF games than more recent entries like Final Fantasy XV. Clive can look around and find items and chests, talk to NPCs, and listen to random conversations, but the environment is closed and the story is always calling him forward. This totally worked for me, but it may be disappointing to anyone who is hoping for a more open experience. I'm sure the game will open up more as it goes along, but then again, Square Enix has made it clear that they were focused on making the tightest experience possible, so maybe it will never open up? I don't know. Before the story gets into full swing, we have wonderful moments between Clive, Joshua, Jill, and the Duke, all of which establish their strong bonds in beautiful fashion, and increase the feeling of dread in your stomach as you know all of this must soon fall apart. There's even a moment where Clive shows kindness to a branded slave, which further establishes his nobility and kindness. From here, we see Clive go on a mission with the instantly likable Wade and Tyler, a mission that involves fighting a bunch of goblins and the most epic Marlborough I have ever seen. But we'll get to that in the gameplay section. After the mission is complete, we see everyone relaxing at the Fortress of Phoenix Gate, and Clive and Joshua having a beautiful conversation that sets the tone for the events that are about to transpire. We see Joshua doubting his ability to lead the people of Rosaria, as he is the dominant of the icon Phoenix, meaning the burden of the throne must fall to him. Clive shows such love and compassion to his brother that you can't help but fall even more in love with the characters. And then, just as everything seems to be great and calm and people are relaxing, things fall apart as we knew they were inevitably going to. The fortress comes under attack by Imperial forces, and Wade rushes to defend Joshua, which made me tear up quite a bit. Wade is so awesome. Then, surprisingly to me, we get to play as Joshua as he fights side by side with Wade in an attempt to reach Clive and the Duke. This sequence straight up made me cry, as seeing Joshua being so brave demonstrates that he can absolutely be the leader that Rosaria needs. This is where the story gets more intense and a lot of stuff happens, so I won't be going into specifics here. Let's just say we see tender moments, epic duels, tragic deaths, heartbreaking betrayals, and the full showdown between Ifrit and Phoenix, the outcome of which is too awful to even mention. Throughout all of this, the voice acting is flawless, the character work is sublime, the graphics are mind-blowing, and the narrative flow is perfect. I was completely invested in everything that was going on during this demo, and it made me even more excited to play the full game than ever before. And it's a good thing that the demo save data will transfer over to the main game, because I don't think I could handle playing this opening again so soon. It's so sad. Though I still have my issues with the language and the more mature themes, I can confidently say that FF16 has one of the best openings in Final Fantasy history, and I cannot wait to see the rest of the story unfold. Now let's talk about the gameplay of FF16, which you have probably already heard a lot about, but my thoughts are always masterful, so we're on a whole nother level here. The action is the most fluid and fast-paced combat system the Final Fantasy series has ever seen. The goal of every encounter is to have Clive string together as many moves and iconic abilities as possible in order to maximize his damage output. Clive can use the abilities of the Phoenix to deal increased damage, close gaps between foes, and stagger his opponents, giving him the opportunity to deal even more damage. This new system is brilliant, and it especially shines in the demo's boss fights with the Marlborough and the Imperial Dragoon. Seriously, these boss fights are epic, engaging, and they require great technical skill from the player. You really have to be paying attention if you want to maximize damage and finish the fights as smoothly and quickly as possible. It's beautiful to play. Clive's motions are so smooth and responsive, allowing you to chain moves at lightning speed, evading and countering on the fly. And when it is too dangerous to close the gap with the enemy, you can always hang back and hurl magic at them. Using magic is easier and faster than ever before, making it a highly valuable tool as you build up Clive's combos. Every encounter in the demo is perfectly structured, causing you to really think about which target you attack first and what order you execute your moves in. The more you battle, the more ability points you gain and can spend, which leads to Clive being able to chain together more and more moves, making the combat somehow even more satisfying than it was before. Though the battles can be chaotic at times, and Clive has a large number of moves to keep track of, it never felt overwhelming or frustrating to me. Every single battle was an absolute blast, and I can't wait to dive deeper into the combat system when the full game comes out. After you complete the demo, which is the full prologue of the game, you unlock a bonus sequence called the Iconic Challenge. This sequence takes place later in the game, and sees Clive teaming up with this game's Cid to face off with Benedicta. Now, this is where the gameplay gets really fleshed out in this demo, as Clive has access to 3 different sets of iconic powers, as well as a whole new set of moves and gear. This sequence is non-stop action, giving you ample time to experience Clive at a much higher level of power and prowess. While the Iconic Challenge is incredible on the gameplay side of things, I actually recommend that you do not play it if you are like me and want to know as little as possible about FF16's story before playing the game. While little context is given about what Clive and Cid are up to, I do feel that this sequence spoils a little too much, and I wish I could have experienced these moments for the first time in context with the rest of the game. However, if you are all about the gameplay, then don't hesitate to play this sequence, as it contains some of the most epic combat I have ever seen in a Final Fantasy game. Overall, I have no flaws with FF16's gameplay. It is a much improved version of some of the things that FF15 tried to do with its more action-oriented combat system. Don't get me wrong, I actually happen to love Final Fantasy 15, but I'll be the first to admit that the battles can be quite mindless and too easy. Final Fantasy 16 offers ample challenge, as well as the ability to fully customize Clive's moveset with no consequences. You can spend and respend your ability points as many times as you like until you build the Clive that's right for your playstyle. If you have been waiting for a Final Fantasy game to fully embrace and perfectly execute the transition to action-oriented combat, then FF16 is the game for you. Alright, that was my first demo analysis ever. I know I went pretty in-depth, but I had a lot of thoughts about this experience that I wanted to share with you, many of which I didn't even put into this video as it would have been way too long. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming Masterful content. Also, let me know in the comments if you have played the demo and if you're excited for FF16 or not. Or if you don't have a PS5, let me know if FF16 is the game that might get you to buy one. You can look forward to a bunch more Final Fantasy content coming soon. Of course, there will be an FF16 review once I get it and finish it. I'm also working on a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth analysis, a Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion review, a Final Fantasy VII review, a Final Fantasy XII review, a Final Fantasy IV 3D review. That's right, I'm playing a lot of Final Fantasy recently, so I hope you like Final Fantasy because you can look forward to a lot of it in the coming weeks. And don't worry, I haven't bailed on our boy Alan Wake. There will be more Alan Wake 2 related content coming very soon. Thank you guys so much for all the comments, the likes, and jumping us up from 92 subscribers to 149 subscribers last I checked. That's absolutely mind-blowing. That's happened over just the past 2 videos. The level of support has been incredible, and I will not let you down. I'm going to keep up with the videos. I hope you're with me as we continue on this masterful journey in the world we call video games. Alright, that's all for now. God bless you guys. I'll catchphrase you later, and this mantra keeps me going till the end of time. Alan Wake 2 is coming on October 17th, 2023. Bye!